Save the Manatee Club is a non-profit, membership-based organization established in 1981 by Jimmy Buffett and former U.S. Senator and Florida Governor Bob Graham. Our mission is to protect manatees and their aquatic habitat for future generations. Human activities are the largest threat to manatees, and only our compassion and action can protect them. With increased awareness, education, regulation, and enforcement, human-related manatee deaths can be substantially reduced or eliminated. We strive to protect habitat, reduce harassment, decrease injury and deaths that are caused by human activity, and ensure that there are sufficient regulations to sustain manatees long into the future. Save the Manatee Club concentrates efforts on increasing public awareness and education, sponsoring research, rescue, rehabilitation, and release efforts, advocating for strong protection measures such as speed zones and sanctuaries, and taking legal action to protect manatees when appropriate. While most of our efforts are focused on the United States, we also assist scientists and educators in the wider Caribbean, South America, and West Africa with their conservation efforts. To help support Save the Manatee Club, you can join our Adopt a Manatee program and become a member. These symbolic adoptions of real living manatees with known histories allow you to learn more about a manatee while helping to provide vital funding for the club's many conservation efforts. To learn more or adopt a real living manatee, you can visit www.savethemanatee.org or call 1-800-432-5646. You can also watch manatees in their natural habitat at Blue Spring on the club's webcams at manateev.org.
Hello. I didn't forget to unmute. What'd you guys think of the Manatee Waltz? Anyone? Learning? The production value of this podcast is going through the roof. Volume so low. Yo. Better? Better? Still low? Better? Better? Michigan Dude, Dionysus, and Leonard with the subs. Thank you so much, you guys. Appreciate it. And Raz, thank you for the 7 months. Leonard, you've been here for 8 months. That's crazy. Hi, hello. We're back at the podcast here. It's been a minute since we've had a podcast here, hasn't it? Hi, Mitchell. Like, a long time. It's my first podcast back. And for some reason, I'm a little bit nervous. Rowdy, thank you for the sub. Appreciate that. 7 months, dude. Okay. Has it really been over 2 months? Has it really? Wow. That's crazy. Raven Care with the 8 months. Thank you. Okay, so you guys already know what's going on. Save the manatees today. I'm so bad at that. Save the manatees today. What is that? What is that? Sarah Lancelot, thank you so much. Manatees, yay, we got $1. Thank you so much. What is going on? It's new? I can't have this go on for 4.5 minutes. What is this? I didn't ask for this. Pod, text. Thank you. So what does that do? Level 1 complete? What is going on? Twitch, hello? Can it not do this? Okay, whatever. I'm just gonna try to somehow ignore the chat. Hope that our wonderful guests are not... Thank you. Text for the 5 gifted subs. Hope that our guests are not Discord. Wait, why? What about Discord? You want me to call you? You can disable it on your dashboard. Okay? We're just gonna push through the intro and I will disable it after, I guess. $10 and 100 bits. Thank you for the bits. Today, okay, I'm going to try to ignore how crazy the chat is right now. And I'll just do the intro as we normally do it. Hi, $3 for the manatees. Keep doing what you do. Thank you so much, Blue. I appreciate that. So, $14 straight to save the manatees today, as in their account is attached to my Twitch account, so it doesn't go through me today. It is going straight to save the manatees. Revised. Thank you for the Twitch Prime. Today we're talking to Cora Berchem, who is the research and multimedia specialist for Save the Manatees. She's representing Save the Manatee today. They're a really, really, really cool organization. They have some live cams too, which we'll get to check out today, I think. And then they do... Thank you, Text, for gifting the sub. They support rescue, rehab, research, education efforts, and they even do some legal stuff to protect manatees, as you guys saw in the video earlier. So we'll get to talk about that with Cora today. A lot of you probably know manatees are vulnerable. Their populations are decreasing. A lot of that is because of human conflict. And Dan with $20. Thank you so much. We're at $34 already. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. A lot of the reason that manatee populations are dwindling is because of human conflict. So we're going to have Cora tell us about some of that today. She shared a lot of pictures with me. So it'll be one of those podcasts where I'm panicking to put the picture up and whatever. So that'll be fun. $5. Thank you so much. Your first time here. Welcome. That's wonderful. Yeah, we're saving manatees today. Saving manatees can't with $50. What a start. All right. Holy cow. Nice, dude. Nice. Omelet was $7.65. Thank you so much. Scroll down to community support. Community support and recognition. Hype train. It's almost over. I feel like they'd be upset if I disabled it now, right? It's like, I'll just do it after this. Isn't it? Are you guys getting something out of this? Text for gifting 2 more subs and Batmo with $13.96. Thank you so much. Yeah, okay, so I'll leave it because we only have like another 40 seconds. It's not over. Okay, yeah. But after the 40 seconds is up, or 30 seconds at this point. Oh. But can't with 5 gifted subs. Thank you so much. Wow, we're all over the place today, you guys. Wow. Wait. Okay, we're done. Okay. So. Stand still. Stand still. Stand still? With $500? What the heck, dude? We haven't even called Cora yet. What the heck? Hearts in chat for Standstill 10. What on earth, dude? Thank you so much. And Shut Up Leonard with 939. Thank you so much. Ratchet with the sub and EJ with the sub. You guys are insane. Okay. Insane start to today. Let me change the goal already. I guess. Okay. So, today, I know you guys like having pictures. So we have pictures today. I'll be scrambling to show them, but I will make it work. Thank you so— Standstill, actually insane. Thank you so much, dude. Thank you. Like, crazy. I think we're about ready to go, right? You guys feel ready? Smooth, thank you. Train with the $3, thank you. Ready? Alright. Why is this still happening? I'm no Standstill, but here's something. Thank you so much, Troy. I appreciate you, dude. Crazy. I know you guys missed the royalty free. Let me do that for a second. Hype train thing finishes when we get— but I disabled it. I'm just gonna ignore it. I know you missed the royalty free. Here it comes. Listen to this for a second, and I'll call Cora in, and we'll start the podcast with $628 in donations already. Thank you so much.
Hi. Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
I have to change your nameplate on here.
Oh yeah, no problem.
But hi, we just had a crazy intro. Standstill donated $500.
Oh my god.
We're off to a
Wow.
very, very strong start. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be on the podcast, and thanks to everybody who's already donated. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. We're at
awesome.
we're at $628 in donations, which is unreal. One of the strongest starts we've had.
Crazy.
Rakant just tipped $172, so now we're at $800.
Wow,
in donations.
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's unreal. So speaking of an Adam with $5, thank you. Speaking of the donations, while they're donating, I haven't even really had a chance to tell them where exactly that money is going. So could you tell us a little bit about Save the Manatee and what you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work with Save the Manatee Club. We're a nonprofit organization. We're based here in Florida, and our work is primarily in Florida. So we do a lot of education and outreach to educate the public and voters about manatees. So that's where some of the money goes. A lot of the money also goes to manatee rescue, rehabilitation, research, and release efforts. So together with other organizations, we are part of the Manatee Rescue and Rehabilitation Partnership. So that's where some of the money goes as well. And then we also support some international projects. So we do have some partner facilities in Belize, in South America, in West Africa. So other countries where manatees are, we do have partnerships there as well. So some of the money also goes to those international manatee efforts.
Okay, very cool. I noticed I mentioned this earlier, but I love the manatees that you have set up in the back. It's so cute, guys. This girl loves manatees.
Yeah,
you have a little calf there too.
One's over here. Yeah, this one is a little calf, and that one over here in the corner.
That's so cute.
Single one.
I have a picture on screen right now of a manatee and a calf.
Awesome. Yeah.
Whoops, so what is it that you do for Save Manatees? You're the research and multimedia specialist, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what does that mean?
So I do a lot of the multimedia work for Save the Manatee Club. That's sort of what I was initially hired for. So that includes everything from producing short educational videos to giving presentations, handling their, managing their live webcams that we have, as well as managing all of the social media. We have a really large following of people on Facebook, Instagram, all the social channels. So that's a lot of what I do.
Okay.
And then in addition to that, especially now in the winter time, I do a lot of research. So what I primarily do is count and identify the manatees at Blue Springs State Park, which is a warm water refuge for manatees in the winter time.
I have this live cam here right now.
Yeah.
This is not a manatee.
Oh, cool.
But this is crazy. I think there's a gator on the live cam right now. I'll link you guys this right now. This is the above water at Blue Springs State Park. That's crazy. Wow. Okay, sorry, so continue your research at Blue Spring.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I do at Blue Spring. So if you're seeing the webcams, which you can actually watch either way on our website at manatev.org, that's manatv.org, or we also have a partnership with explore.org right now, and they are also live streaming our cameras.
Wow.
So pretty much what we do every morning in the winter time is go out and count the manatees, identify them, and monitor them. We help with monitoring sick and injured manatees and help with rescue efforts and releases. So that's a big part of what I do during the winter months.
Wow, that's so neat. I have the live cam up right now of the underwater one.
Okay, we actually just had a record count of manatees yesterday. It got pretty cold for a couple of days. Well, like Florida cold. It was like in the 30s. And we had 566 manatees yesterday at Blue Spring in one day. That was like an all-time record.
Wow, that's crazy. Speaking of numbers, I'd mentioned that they're listed as vulnerable, correct? Do you primarily work with one type of manatee also? Are they all vulnerable? Listed as vulnerable?
Yeah, they're listed as threatened, actually. They used to be listed as endangered and were downlisted 3 years ago to the less protected category, which is threatened species. So the ones we work with in Florida here are the West Indian manatees or Florida manatees. Mm-hmm. And then there's also manatees down in South America. They're called Amazonian manatees, so they live like in the freshwater rivers down in the Amazon. Mm-hmm. And then there are West African manatees. So as the name says, those live in West Africa.
Right. Okay, very cool. Celeron with $25. Thank you so much. That's $835 already in donations. That's crazy.
Wow, and we just started.
I know, no kidding.
That's awesome, I guess.
The $500 donation before I called you.
Wow. People love manatees.
They do. You guys are really excited about manatees. We do this podcast every week. I have like biologists, psychologists, whatever, come on to talk about their research. Sometimes organizations, but they were really, really excited about manatees in particular. I've only seen them.
Awesome.
I've seen them in person once at a facility in Japan.
Oh wow!
But they're so enchanting. Like they just look so sweet and pure, and they're really really neat. While I have this picture of a calf on here, I wanted to pull up this one of nursing because I just recently learned about the way that manatees nurse. Can you tell us about this? Because it's so bizarre, but so cool.
Yeah, it really is bizarre. And I mean, I can actually, if you want me to illustrate it with this little guy over here.
Sure.
So, well, you may be seeing a picture of a live manatee. Basically, the manatees have their mammary glands behind the flippers, sort of like right here. So if you see a little one traveling with a big one, most likely it's nursing. So that's pretty cool because they don't have to stop to nurse the calf, but they can actually swim along and nurse the calf at the same time. And sometimes you'll even see them nursing two calves. So manatees usually only have one calf at a time. But what happens is that they oftentimes adopt other calves. So if there's like an orphan calf, they may be nursing that too, in addition to their own calf. So that's a pretty unique thing, I guess.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
So they only have one calf, and I was reading about they take a long time to reach reproductive maturity, right? And then they have one calf. So is that one of the issues that they face is not having a lot of babies, not very fast?
Yeah, because they're pretty large mammals. They usually have only, one calf at a time. They sometimes have twins, but it's pretty rare. And usually the females usually mature around the age of 4 or 5, and the males even later around the age of 7 to 9. So that's when they start having the calves, and their pregnancy, their gestation period is 13 months. So that's quite long.
Yeah.
That's over a year. So between them, getting pregnant and then having the calf, it's a whole year, and then they take care of that calf for about 1 to 2 years. So it's a pretty big investment.
Yeah.
So yes, they do reproduce and mature pretty slowly. That's why if a lot of manatees die from whatever cause it may be, they don't like repopulate all that quickly. They don't have a whole bunch of calves at the same time. So it takes a long time to make up for any of those losses, basically.
Yeah. And then there's lots to talk about with other threats to manatees with human conflict and stuff like that. I meant to ask you before, I forgot, how did you get into working with Save the Manatee? You started with them in 2014, 2015?
Yeah, 2014. It's actually, today is my 6-year anniversary with them. It was January 10th. So it just happens to be today.
Awesome.
Thank you. So yeah, the story is kind of unique. So I actually have a background in communication and filmmaking. So I grew up in Germany, but moved to New York a while ago and went to school there and started working in TV and did a bunch of reality shows. And one of the shows I worked on brought us down to Miami in 2011. And I found actually this stuffed manatee behind me, and I had no idea what a manatee even was. So,
so crazy.
They told me, I was like, this is a manatee. I'm like, what is it, a seal, a dolphin, a walrus? I mean, I've always been interested in marine biology and, animals, but a manatee, never heard of that. Right. So we bought that stuffed animal, and I started researching and adopted a manatee through Save the Manatee Club. And then the following year, made a documentary about manatees. And that pretty much got me in touch with people from Save the Manatee Club, people who worked in rescue and rehabilitation of manatees. And the following year, Save the Manatee Club asked me if I wanted to come down here for a couple of months to just help them with their live webcams and some videos and just basic like media stuff. And the contracting turned into a whole year of working for them, and then I joined them full-time in 2015.
That's so cool.
I would have never thought, if you had told me 8 or 9 years ago I would be working with sea cows in Florida, yeah, probably not.
No kidding. That's crazy that you didn't even know what they were. That's such a cool story.
I had no idea.
Jeez. Guys, just a reminder here, you are welcome to @ Cytogeny with any questions you have, and he'll put them in a live doc so I can read the questions out if you have anything to ask. It's better than adding me. I'll see it if you add Saito instead. Okay, so let's see. Celeron with another $25. Thank you so much. So we're at $870 in donations.
That's amazing.
Which is crazy. Thank you guys so much. Celeron, you're insane. Let's talk about, I think what a lot of people are interested in is human conflict with manatees and the risk that poses to them. So I have a picture pulled up here of, looks like people scuba diving and petting a manatee. So what's the context of this, and why is this a problem?
Yeah, so manatees actually have no natural predators, which is pretty unique. So the only real problem that they're facing is people, basically. So the picture you're looking at is showing, people swimming with manatees, which in certain parts of Florida that is legal. So people actually go on tours, on swim with manatee tours. And although those tours can be great, I mean, having the experience of being, in the water with a manatee, seeing it up close, that can be a really wonderful experience. The problem is that a lot of this is happening at the warm water springs during the winter time, when manatees really come to those springs to conserve energy, to survive. They cannot stay in cold water, so they have to migrate to these vital warm water sources, and they encounter a ton of people there. And a lot of people think it's sort of a petting zoo, and they jump on the manatees, they try to ride manatees, they're touching them. We've had people, unfortunately, separating a mother from a calf to take a selfie with the calf. And obviously, all of those kind of things, they disturb the resting manatees. So, so that's a really big problem, because if manatees cannot rest and conserve energy, or they're driven out into colder water, that can be really dangerous for them, or even fatal, because their body is not made for being in cold water. So, if you do swim with manatees, we just recommend you keep your hands to yourself, look at them from a distance. They're super curious animals, so there's a really good chance they're actually going to come right up to you, and they want to check you out. So if you're going after them, trying to touch them, all you're going to see is probably just a tail swimming away. So, so that's basically that. Harassment is a big problem for manatees, so we're just trying to educate people about the right way to see them, when they're out in the water swimming or scuba diving or doing any of those kind of things.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Dan tipped $25. Thank you, Dan. Panda with $5, and Young with the sub. Thank you. Okay, let's see. I have more human conflict pictures. So other issues that humans cause for manatees. I've heard about this. Oh. There it is. Boats are a problem. Guys, I apologize, this may be a little bit graphic, but it kind of looks like grill marks on a manatee is what we're looking at right now. So how does this happen? Why are boats such a threat to manatees and not other aquatic mammals?
Yeah, boats are really like the #1 human threat for manatees. So manatees are really slow-moving animals. They usually swim at about 3 to 5 miles per hour, so very slowly. They usually live in very dark, turbid water. So if you're boating, it's really hard to see them. So oftentimes, when a speeding boat comes through, the manatee is just too slow to swim out of the way in time to get away from that boat. So most living manatees have scars on them from boat hits, and that's actually what we use to identify individuals. So at the spring where I work, we recognize over 300 manatees just by the different scar patterns that they have on their bodies, basically. Wow. So it's pretty great for the research, that they have that, but it's really sad that that's what we have to use, to identify them. So a lot of them, do collide with boats, and sometimes it just leaves scars, and oftentimes it's fatal to them.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the biggest problem. And last year we had an all-time record of manatees dying from watercraft. So we're really trying to do more in terms of education, letting boaters know about manatees and how to boat around manatees, so that doesn't happen.
So you said they're slow movers. Somebody in the chat asked, Space Voyage asked, do you know what speed they can swim at? Or
Yeah, so when they're scared or when they, you know, wanna, if they're spooked by something, they can actually swim up to 20 miles per hour.
okay.
But it's in very short bursts. So if there's a boat coming at, you know, at them with like 30, 40, 50 miles an hour, they have no chance to get out of the way.
Right.
But they can swim pretty fast for just a really short period of time. Usually they're just sort of moving around, and they usually live in very shallow water. So if you're thinking about like dolphins or whales or large sharks, they usually live in deep water.
Mhm.
And the manatees live in very shallow water. It's because
Mhm.
they're eating seagrasses, so it has to, you know, it grows in shallow water. So that's why there's such huge potential of them colliding with boats, because they live in like 5 to 15 feet of water, so there's not really like a way out for them,
Yeah.
you know, when the boat is coming at them.
Okay, that makes sense. RB also asked if there's a way that I don't think that there's a he asked, is there a way that manatees can defend themselves? I assume not from boats. Or from
Not really
anything.
from boats, because they've really grown up without any natural predators. They haven't really developed a sort of defense mechanism. They have a very powerful tail, so if they want to get away, you know, the tail is what makes them move away, so they can swim away from it. But they don't have anything like sharp teeth or any sort of anything that they can use to defend themselves from anything, basically.
Right. Okay, so other pictures that I selected that you sent me, one oh, we talked about this before. You said they have no natural predators. I just thought this picture was so cool. There's a picture of a manatee and an alligator just like hanging out together. That is so weird to me. I've never seen a picture like that before, and I never really thought about them sharing an environment like that. We saw it in the live cam, guys. There's oh, now it's gone. Oh no, it's there. Wait. It's swimming away though. That's so cool. Okay, sorry, I just had to share that one. But
yeah, no, it's really fun that they like coexist with alligators, which you know, people are always really surprised when they see manatees and alligators together, because they think, you know, alligators, they go after everything. But we've seen manatees and alligators coexist peacefully, and there's
just
never been any issues.
That's so cool. Okay, so on a less happy, cool note, other human conflict things, I saved an image of a manatee that's like, it has a whole tire around it. This took me a while to figure out what was going on in the picture.
Yeah.
Is it like what kind of tire is that? Pancake just tipped $100.
Oh my god.
What the heck?
Thank you.
Thank you so much, you guys. Today is insane. My goodness.
That is crazy.
Okay, so $1,020, guys. 1K. Wow. Thank you. This picture of a manatee somehow I mean, there's a tire like around its girth.
Yeah. So that's a really weird case. So that manatee is actually entangled in a bicycle tire. Believe it or not, you know, as funny as it sounds, it's actually really bad for the manatee, because we don't know how this happened, but the manatee must have swum into the tire when it was, you know, like a calf or a juvenile, and then it sort of grew into the tire, and obviously a tire doesn't grow with it. So that's actually an animal we're currently trying to rescue, and to get the tire off of it. It's already really embedded in its skin, so we can't just like cut it off and remove it. We actually have to bring it in for rehabilitation. So that's sort of an extreme case of what can happen when they entangle in, you know, human debris, basically. I mean, we have a lot of manatees that entangle in fishing line or crab traps, you know, those kind of things that wrap around their flippers, and then they can potentially even lose a flipper because of those entanglements. And then that manatee you're looking at right now is entangled in this bike tire, which is just, it's really ridiculous. So we're hoping to, you know, we're still trying to get that and capture it and trying to remove that tire. So
that's so sad. That's such a crazy case.
It really is.
Spoon just donated $80 and Potato donated $5. Thank you. These are usernames, by the way. I know they sound kind of
Yeah,
funny.
wow.
But
Thank you guys. That's awesome.
guys, thank
Manatee
you.
with a bicycle tire did it.
Yeah, no kidding. Thank you so much, you guys. We're at 1.1k already.
Wow.
Again, we've like
It's insane.
not even been through half the pictures. So
Wow.
this is an example of entanglement, right? This tire thing, kind of.
Yes, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a pretty extreme entanglement. Usually, most of the entanglements we see is like around the flippers, you know, when they like walk into a fishing line or crab traps.
So I have a picture of that up right now of a.
Yeah.
It looks like maybe fishing line or something around a flipper, but it's really like embedded in there.
Yeah, we have quite a few of those animals. I think the picture I sent you was Manatee. Her name is Una. She had both flippers entangled at some point, and she even had lines sort of like connecting her flippers. So she was sort of like handcuffed. So we had a researcher at least cut the line off in the middle so she could move her flippers again individually. And then we eventually had to rescue her to get all the line surgically removed from her flippers. So unfortunately, that happens quite a lot. So we just always tell people, if you go out fishing, you know, try to recycle your line. Try to please not throw it out in the water. I mean, we know, you know, things happen, flies away and whatnot, but it can be really harmful for animals. And a lot of times they ingest things too. And that's what's really dangerous for manatees, if they ingest anything, you know, plastic, fishing hooks, fishing line, all kinds of things. And we usually don't detect those kind of things until the animal is in such dire distress that it needs to be rescued. So that's why we always encourage people, please recycle your trash. Like, don't leave anything out in the water. Because you would think a big animal like a manatee, you know, it does like a little piece of plastic wouldn't matter, but it actually really does. Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. That is a crazy picture. It made me think of this question somebody asked. Tef, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say her name. Said, does their skin get tougher over time, or do they get more layers of fat to protect them? I think as they get older.
That's a good question. So the manatee skin is really thick. If you picture an elephant, which is actually the closest living relative of a manatee, they have this really thick gray skin. So their skin itself is really tough. So, you know, if they brush up against something, you know, they won't cut themselves. But obviously, if there's like a sharp propeller coming through, you know, that's a bigger problem.
Right.
Now, their fat layer is actually really thin. They only have about an inch of fat, which you wouldn't think. You know, you look at a manatee and you think it's like this big blubbery, you know, like fat creature. And they actually have like a super thin layer of fat, and that's why they cannot stay warm in the winter time. So the adults, you know, they're a little bit more robust than the calves. So I would say, like, over time, as their body grows, you know, their fat layer grows too. But even really big adults, any water temperature under 68 degrees, they can't tolerate, because they basically have like no blubber. You know, they're not like a whale or a dolphin or a walrus or something, or seal. They're completely different. They have like no insulation to keep them warm.
How much do they weigh? That's a question from, my question also from Missing 224. How much do they
it's a good question. So the average manatee is between 800 and 1,200 pounds.
Wow,
so
really?
That's pretty big.
That's huge.
That's huge, but so that's the average weight. Now the females get larger than the males because they have the calves. So the largest female ever recorded was over 3,000 pounds.
No way!
That's a really big animal. And some of the manatees at Blue Spring, they're easily like 2,000 pounds. So that's a really large animal.
You guys, my horse is like 1,100 pounds, and he's like
so
pretty
it's about
large. I mean,
that's 2 times your horse.
That is absurd. I had no idea. Sunny with $30, thank you, and David with $5. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
So let's see other human conflict pictures I have. Well, maybe I don't have other ones. Connor with $25. Thank you so much, you guys. Somebody asked, when it comes to rescues and stuff like that, he actually asked how, like, what what do you do to remove that tire / what are the funds that it takes to do that? I assume that that's bad. I assume bad is his name. I assume that it differs for every rescue mission, but can you tell us like about the process of your guys' rescue mission with something like this this manatee with the tire?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work really closely with our partners from Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission. So those are FWC. Those are the ones who determine which manatee needs to get rescued and, which ones are going to be okay on their own. They also provide the rescue boats and the nets and the stretchers and all of that. And we support that financially as well as with staff and volunteers helping that.
Mm-hmm.
So what usually happens is that they come out with a rescue boat. It's a boat that's open at the back and it has the motor in the front. So what they will do is they're going to set a net around the manatee. It will have float lines on the top and then it has heavy lead lines on the bottom. So you basically like back the manatee in that net and then pull it onto the boat. And then the manatee will go into a transport truck, which is just basically like a U-Haul truck, like any sort of like big cube truck. And then the manatee is transported to a manatee hospital. So there's several hospitals in Florida for manatees. They're specially equipped with specialized pools and all kinds of equipment to rehabilitate those manatees before they go back out into the wild.
Uh-huh.
So that really depends on the case. Some manatees, with the entanglement, as bad as it looks, but most likely and hopefully it will be a pretty quick turnaround where it will be brought to a facility. They will, cut off the tire, most likely give it some sort of antibiotics because there's some sort of infection underneath, like in the skin. And then they can release it back out into the wild. So we're hoping that could just be maybe like 2 or 3 weeks, less than a month in rehabilitation. If it's a manatee with a very severe boat strike, it could take years to rehabilitate that animal. So obviously, the longer they spend in rehab, the more money is involved, to feed them and for the medical procedures that they need to get back out into the wild. And then I guess another case for rescue would be an orphan manatee. So some manatees are found orphaned at a very young age where they cannot survive without the mother. And those manatees have to stay in captivity until they reach a certain weight and a certain size, which is usually around 600 pounds. So that can take anywhere between 2 to 3 years turnaround to get that manatee back out into the wild.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I have a photo of a rescue mission up here. There's either 1 or 2 in a net, and then like a group of people around it with a boat. That's usually a process for such a big animal.
It really is. And, since we just talked about how big they are and how heavy they are, it's not that easy. People just think, they're slow moving creatures and we just go there and pick it up and bring it in. And unfortunately, they swim around and they leave an area before a rescue crew can get there. So it can be pretty tough to actually get them rescued. But with those nets and with really experienced people from all kinds of different organizations, including us, we try to get those manatees rescued.
Right. That's awesome. Dysliptic tip $10, Tavian with 15, Sawyer with 10, and Cherry with $100.
Wow.
So we're at $1,300, you guys.
That is crazy.
That is crazy. Thank you so much. So you were talking about, sorry, I'm a little bit emotional. You were talking about severe boat strikes. I have a picture here of a manatee that's tail is it's like cut in half essentially. Mm-hmm. So is this from a boat related incident? Do you know what picture I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's actually a manatee we nicknamed No Tail because he literally has like almost no tail left. That is from a boat injury. That was actually a manatee who never got rescued. It was doing pretty well on its own, and they're really resilient animals. If you look at some of their injuries, you really ask yourself how do they survive those kind of things, we complain sometimes when we cut ourselves on like a little piece of paper or something, and they just survive these ridiculous injuries. So there are manatees who have, large parts of their tails missing or flipper missing, and they're doing okay. They still survive. What's really the major problem for them is if they get hit anywhere on their backs. They have very long lungs. They extend all the way from their shoulder area down towards the tail. and their ribs are right over the lungs. So as you can imagine, if they get struck by a boat anywhere on the back, they can potentially break a rib and then puncture a lung. So that's when it gets really dangerous for them, because they may the lung cavity may fill with air, and then they're floating sort of on the top of the water, and they're unable to dive down to feed or to get out of the way from boats. So those injuries are really the most severe, is any sort of lung injury. You know, if their tails get injured, that's a problem too, but usually they heal pretty well and they're going to be okay.
Yeah. Are back injuries with boats, I'd imagine, like, are those the most common for a boat going over to like strike them in the back?
Mostly. Yeah, we see most of their scars sort of on their backs or on their tails. Their tails do get hit a lot too, but usually it's the back, because, you know, they're swimming with the back sort of like on top of the water. Oftentimes they come up for a breath of air, since they're mammals, you know, they have to surface, and then they may get hit anywhere on the back. And since their lungs are so long, extending basically through the entire backs, there's just a lot of potential for them to, unfortunately, to get hit.
I was just showing the above water live cam from Blue Springs State Park. Yeah, you can see how they really just hang out, like, exactly where you would be worried about them hanging out.
Like Blue Spring is just like a really unique place, because it's a warm water sanctuary for them in the winter time. So there's like hundreds of them that migrate to that warm water. And since people are not allowed in the water unless, you know, with very specific research permits, you know, there's no swimming or kayaking or anything like that during the winter time. So it's literally just for the manatees, and people can, you know, come to the park and see them from the boardwalk. I mean, you basically get the same view you get from the cameras. So it's a really cool place to see them. Just them being manatees, you know, they just swim around, rest. You know, the calves are playing, may encounter an alligator or whatnot, but yeah, it's a really cool place for them.
It's crazy how many of them you can see scars on that I can't imagine are from anything except for boats.
Mostly, yeah. I mean, there's some that have some sort of like freshwater fungus scars, but those are pretty rare and they're not really harmful to them. But yeah, most individuals unfortunately do have some recognizable marks from the boat strikes.
Here's the underwater cam, you guys. Wow, that's crazy. I didn't realize they were so big. I'm still thinking about them being 3,000 pounds. Like,
even the calves, like when the calves are born, they already weigh around between 60 and 70 pounds, and they are between like 3 to 4 feet long. So, you know, big next to the big mother, they look tiny, but they're already a pretty big animal when they're born.
No kidding. So what do they do to? Oh my gosh. Okay. Dub with the oh my gosh. Dub with the sub. Oscar with $25 and Danny with $17. Thank you. Danny said manatees continuously replace their teeth throughout their lives. I did not know that. That's really cool.
Yeah, they actually do that. We call that marching molars. So, you know, manatees don't have any sharp teeth, but they have molars, and they're all the way in the back of their jaw. So since they're eating a lot of vegetation, the front teeth will wear down and fall out, and then the teeth in the back will grow back and march forward. So they're continuously replacing their teeth, which is a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. So I have a picture here of a manatee eating. It's mostly, what is it mostly that they eat? I know it's vegetation. I know they're
so they basically eat anything from seagrasses to like freshwater grasses, or anything like submerged, you know, that they can feed off of on the bottom. They're also eating floating vegetation and a lot of invasive plants like water lettuce, water hyacinth, those kind of things. I think the picture I sent you just showed like a tree that had fallen into the water, and they were eating the leaf off of those trees. So basically anything green they can find in the water.
They really are like sea cows. They're like grazers. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think that's why they're called sea cows sometimes too, because they really graze just like a cow. They are not related to the cow at all, but just, you know, the way they're feeding on the grasses, that's just like the cow feeds on the lawn.
Yeah, cool. Spoon just tipped $52. Thank you so much. So we're at $1,400 in donations.
That's crazy.
It is
Thank you guys.
Actually insane. So speaking of them not being related to cows, Protech asked if dugongs are related to manatees.
Yes, so dugongs and manatees are both in the same family. It's called Sirenians. So the dugong is a cousin species of the manatee, and the dugong will live in the Pacific, like Indo-Pacific. It will live around Australia, South Africa, and around there. It looks very similar to the manatee, but the manatee has sort of a beaver-shaped paddle tail, and the dugong's tail looks more like that of a dolphin. It's sort of like a, it has like a.
Yeah, I'm showing a picture.
Can't think of the word, but like a different tail. And the dugong is it feeds primarily on the bottom, whereas the manatees can feed both on the bottom and the surface of the water. So the dugong's snout is turned downwards a little bit more, and the dugongs sometimes grow tusks, which the manatees don't.
Oh, wow.
So but they're very closely related. Yeah, they
so
look pretty similar too.
Mm-hmm. They're so cute. It's crazy. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we have there's a whole list of questions that I have yet to get to. Let's just move on. I have another photo that I wanted to ask about before we move off of the boat topic. These tags. Mm-hmm. Is this intended to help with tracking? Is it for boaters? I mean, what are these for?
Yeah, so those are for tracking manatees. So certain manatees are outfitted with satellite tracking. The way they work is there's a belt that goes around the manatee's tail, sort of where the tail meets the body, and then attached to that belt is a 3 to 4 foot long tether, and then on top of the tether is the satellite tag. So that's a sort of like a white-looking canister. Manatees are outfitted with those tags either for certain research studies, if they want to study migration routes or how manatees use certain areas for like feeding or breeding or migration, those kind of things. As well as manatees, like I said earlier, some are rescued as really tiny orphans. So when they're released back out into the wild, they literally have like no experience at all being a wild manatee. So what they do, they outfit them with those satellite tracking devices, and then they can monitor to make sure they go to feeding grounds and they come back to warm water sites and, socialize with other manatees. So that's what the tracking devices are mainly for. And all the devices have weak links in them. So if the manatee gets like caught on something, it will just break off. So the manatee just has to sort of pull and the whole thing will come off. So it's not, the manatee is not getting like entangled or will drown. And the thing goes down with them when they're diving. So it doesn't inhibit them from any of their natural behavior if they wear a tracking device like that.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, I pulled up a picture of the tag itself and then one attached to a manatee. That's really cool. I didn't know that that's how they tag them.
Yeah, they've tried like different methods to tag manatees, and I think the most important one, since manatees live in really shallow water, the thing, whenever it goes to the surface, it will transmit information to a satellite, and then it will go back to the researchers' computer so they can see where the manatee is located. So that seems to work pretty well. They oftentimes do break off and then they have to reattach the tag, but it's just a safety thing to make sure the manatee doesn't, get caught on something and gets injured by that.
Okay. Rob tipped $10 and Dan tipped $100.
Wow.
That's $1,500. Guys, thank you so much.
That's amazing.
So what other pictures do I have here? Actually, that might be all the pictures that I saved. So if you wouldn't mind, maybe we can go into some of the questions that people have been asking.
Yeah, absolutely.
That I haven't gotten the chance to see. Hang on, let me update this. There we go. Okay. So what's a good question here? So Remy, I think LX, we answered your question about about their diets. Remy asked how they track the movement of manatees, so I think we kind of just talked about that. Rearly, we talked about the rehabilitation process. Psych, we talked about how much it takes to save, rehabilitate, kind of same question. Dan Dannison asked, if you happen to injure a manatee when boating, what should you do, or is there anything that you can do in that situation?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you accidentally injure a manatee while boating, or if you see a sick or injured manatee here in Florida, you should call the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission. They have a hotline. It's 1-888-404-3922. We also have these little stickers that have the hotline on it. And there's a lot of information on Florida with signage that tells you that number to call. So what you should be doing is calling them and letting them know where the manatee is located, what condition it's in, and then they usually send a biologist out there to look at the animal and then rescue it if it's severely injured. So if you are obeying by the speed limits and everything, and you just accidentally hit a manatee, there's no fine at all. We really encourage people to report that, because that's the only way a manatee can be helped, if that happens. You can also report it anonymously. You don't have to give them your name or your contact information or anything. They just want to make sure the manatee gets rescued.
Right.
So that's one thing you can do also when you're boating. Just like the 3 sort of top tips to give people is, go slow. If you see a manatee zone, like a sign, we have a lot of signs that indicate it's a manatee slow speed zone. Obey by the signs. Try to wear polarized sunglasses. That really cuts the glare, so it makes it a lot easier to see manatees in the water. And then also look out for what we call a manatee footprint. So it's a circular pattern on top of the water that the manatee will make when it swims. So if you see that, or you see like a snout coming up for air, that's an indication there's a manatee around. So, in those areas, if you see that, just, that's an extra sort of hint to watch out for them.
I've never heard of this footprint thing. That's so interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people, say like, what footprint? Like manatees don't have any feet, but it's just this circular pattern sort of on the top of the water that you see, because the manatee makes it when it's swimming, and you see those patterns like on the surface of the water.
Okay, that's interesting. So with boating being an issue and all of those regulations being in place, so like speed limit and having that number, thank you guys for pasting that in the chat. That was nice. Amazing Pie Man asked, do you know the current projected change for the manatee population for this next decade? Their populations are currently decreasing. American Eagle Foundation with $10, Zach with 20, and Aurora with 20. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
So projected population.
The question was the trends in population. So actually, so since counting manatees began, the population has actually been increasing, which was really, that's a really good thing. So when they first started counting manatees in the 1970s, they counted, I think, between like 1,500 and 2,000 animals. Now, the past couple of years, we've always reached between 5,000 and 6,000 animals, which that's a really good, trend. I mean, the numbers are growing. But what we do need to keep in mind is that manatees were actually never put on the endangered list because of the low numbers. They were put on there because of all the different threats that they're facing. And, if you're looking at boating mortality and habitat loss, pollution, those kind of things, those threats are increasing. So their future is still really uncertain, only because we counted 6,000 manatees. In 2018, we had over 800 manatees die in a single year. So suddenly looking at 6,000 is probably not that high of a number compared to, how slowly they reproduce. So the numbers have grown, but the future is still, it's uncertain, especially with loss of warm water habitat and increasing boating fatalities. It's really hard to predict where it's going. So we hope it's increasing, but they still face a lot of problems that need to be addressed.
You talked about they reproduce really slowly, and that's one of the problems. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but I don't think you answered this question in particular. Curry with $50, SMK with $20. Wow. Thank you guys so much. Fisk asked, how many calves does a manatee have throughout its lifetime?
That is a tough question to answer. So let's say they start reproducing around the age of 5. They may have a calf about every 2 to 3 years, and then it just really depends how old they can get. So manatees, the oldest manatee on record that we've ever had was 69 years old, and even he died of human-related causes and not natural causes. So we know they can get pretty old. We don't exactly know what age they stop reproducing at. We do have a female at Blue Spring that we first saw in the early 1970s, and she hasn't brought in any calves recently, so we think she may be past the age where she's able to reproduce. But we have some manatees at Blue Spring, I think, that have had between 14 and 16 calves already. So if they live a long life and they have a calf about every 2 to 3 years, they can have quite a few.
Yeah, that's cool. Sup asked, are manatees only in Florida? Where do they migrate if they migrate?
Yeah, so they are primarily in Florida, but we also see them in surrounding states. They go to like Alabama, Mississippi. Sometimes they even go as far west as Texas. We also have manatees during the summertime in Georgia and the Carolinas. And then we do have some manatees that are really adventurous, and they're going all the way up to Virginia, Maryland, or we even had one that went up to Massachusetts.
Wow.
Now, that's pretty rare. Those are just like a couple of stragglers that go up there, which is fine in the summertime, but in the wintertime, it gets way too cold for them, so they have to all come back to Florida. And we always have a few that don't get that, and then they have to be rescued out of like Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Maryland, or wherever they ended up going.
Yeah.
But primarily in Florida, but we do see quite a few that migrate to like the surrounding states.
Okay.
We had one that crossed over to the Bahamas, actually. We
wow.
know that there are a few manatees in the Bahamas, but we've never documented a manatee actually making a crossing from the Bahamas from Florida to the Bahamas.
So do you think that you're seeing them migrate to different places? Lucas asked if global warming is affecting manatees, and I guess I'm asking about their migration in particular.
It could, there could be one reason, is that, it does stay warmer, the water is warm, so they may migrate in areas that they previously haven't checked out. Food sources are a really big problem. We did have a lot of seagrass die off in certain parts of Florida, which made manatees migrate further north into other parts of Florida. So that can definitely be one of the things that drives them, to seek out other areas. Now, global warming in general can affect manatees in many different ways. So a lot of people think it's a really good thing for manatees because, warmer waters. That is a good thing for manatees, but there's just a lot of other things coming with global warming, such as salinity changes in the water, which can affect the vegetation that grows in certain areas, or stronger hurricanes, which can affect manatees. So there's a whole big variety of problems associated with global warming that could potentially affect them.
Okay. Again, guys, I've seen a couple people at me with questions. At Saito, if you have questions, please. So when it comes to their migration, Space asked if they travel with their families or groups, pods, herds.
Yeah, good question. So manatees are actually pretty solitary animals that don't form like long-lasting bonds, such as a herd or a pod, like you would think dolphins or whales do. The only really strong bond is between the mother and her calf, and they'll stay together for a year or two until the calf is weaned and goes off on its own. But manatees don't have a family structure, so you may see them in loose groups. They may come together for feeding or warm water habitat or for mating, but there's no herd or family structure as such. No.
Okay. Rarely asked, speaking of family structure, if they tend to mate with one partner, or how the mating works with manatees.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting. So manatees form what we call a mating herd, which you usually see in the spring or the summertime. So you have one receptive female, and she is surrounded by a whole big group of males. Can be anywhere between 5 to 20 animals at once. And that will usually go on for a couple of hours, even days, where the group of males will travel with that female, and then the female will mate with potentially more than one of those males, And then after that, the males will go off and seek out another female, and the female will then go off on her own, and she'll have the calf and raise the calf on her own. So there's no the males are not involved in raising the calves.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, we get a lot of concerned calls from people in the spring and summertime who think they see a whole bigger group of manatees in distress, and it's actually a mating herd in really shallow water, which oftentimes they seek out like shallow coastal areas or such. And apparently last year there was a big traffic jam on a bridge in Tampa because everyone stopped to watch the mating herd of manatees going on like in the water under that bridge. So interesting.
Right. That is interesting. But they look distressed. Yeah, God, that's funny. So Chris asked, what are the positive, well, let's focus on what are the positive effects that come from manatee populations increasing? Why do we want to conserve manatees?
Yeah, so I mean, manatees are just, I mean, they're really important species for Florida. You know, they're Florida state mammals, so a lot of people, you know, Florida see them,
that.
which is, you know, which is, you know, one cool, I mean, Florida, you know, is a huge tourism state. So we get a lot of, you know, our revenue in Florida is from tourism. So manatees are obviously important for tourism and people who come here to see them. They're also sort of an umbrella species. A lot of habitat is protected because of manatees, but there's so many other animals that depend on that same habitat. So just as one example, mangroves, for example, they may be protecting a mangrove habitat because there's manatees living in that area. Now, it's also a nursery for fish. So, you know, people that like fishing, the habitat for those fish or little, you know, shrimp, crustaceans, all those kind of little things are protected in that area as well, just because it's protected for the manatee. You know, I mean, fishing and boating is a big thing in Florida. So, you know, if we conserve the fish population, you know, that's another big thing for revenue. And then just because they're really big, you know, charismatic animal, they've been in Florida for over 45 million years. That's where their ancestors came from. So I think that's just one thing why, you know, we should be conserving them, just because they're such an integral part of Florida.
Yeah. Okay, that was a good question. Thank you for that. Another, I think one more human conflict related question is Loj asked, do microplastics affect manatees or bigger plastics? If so, how do the plastics impact them?
Yeah, so I mean, any type of plastic. It could be microplastics. It could also be larger pieces of plastic or any really that's in the water. So we had a really sad case about 2 years ago. It was a manatee who we had rescued and then released, and he was wearing a satellite tag, and he was doing really well. I mean, he got it all, and within 6 weeks, he was declared a success. He was doing really well. And then we actually had to re-rescue him about 3 months later, and he had ingested so much plastic and just human debris in those 3 months that he was out in the wild, that he died from that ingestion. He had it, you know, they have very long intestines. So anything that gets stuck in like their stomach or intestines, whether that's plastics or fishing hooks or anything that they pick up with the seagrasses, can potentially kill them if it gets stuck in there and they can't get it out. So so it's really like any sort of item. I mean, I don't want to dwell on the negative, but at the same time, there was a study done that studied what they found in manatees, and there was anything from plastic to pieces of cloth to rubber bands to fishing hooks, all those kind of things. So you just have to picture, you know, a manatee going through the seagrasses. They don't have very good eyesight. So whatever they can find, they're going to pick up. You know, it's like you're blindfolded and you're eating a salad, and anything, you know, feels and tastes like lettuce, and you don't realize until it's too late that you've picked something up that, you know, was not meant to be eaten. So
Standstill just donated another $500.
Oh my God!
Standstill has donated $1,000 today.
That is amazing! Wow! Well, huge thank you. Huge thank you! Wow!
Where did you come from? Crazy. What the heck? We're at 2.1K. Thank you so much.
That is amazing. Wow! The manatees say thank you.
There you go. She speaks for the manatees.
Well, they'd squeak thank you. Yeah.
Do they squeak?
They do. Yes,
really?
Actually, they do. Yeah,
What?
so
I need
they
to
make
find a
like these.
video of that.
Yeah, I'll have to. I have some like audio files. I can send at some point. So they make like these really high pitched squeaks. It's almost like a squeaky door or like a squeaky floorboard. You would think like a 2,000-pound animal would make some sort of like big threatening noise or whatnot, but
Yeah.
they just have like these teeny tiny squeaks that they make, and that's how they communicate with each other.
Oh my gosh. We're listening to a video right now of
Oh, good. Okay.
one. What on earth? That is so crazy. I didn't know that they made those noises.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a lot of times it's communications between the mother and her calf. So the calf will make a little more high-pitched squeaks, and the mother will be a bit more
Yeah, I
on
think
the
we saw
lower pitch
both.
side.
They're
so
both still so high though. That's crazy.
they
I don't
really
know what
are,
I
yeah.
expected. I guess I never thought about what noises they make. That was so cool.
Yeah, I think I asked somebody like, do you think they make grunts or they like moo like a cow? And I got, answers all over the place, but no one thought that they would squeak like I don't even know what to compare it to, like a bird or something.
Yeah, like a bird or a rodent or something. It's so
Yeah,
bizarre.
exactly.
Yeah. Really? Okay. This one has to be the last human conflict thing, but they asked how the 2010 BP oil spill, or how do oil spills in general affected manatees?
I don't have the exact answer for that, but I can definitely say it does affect their food sources. If you have an oil spill or any sort of other water pollution, it can affect the seagrasses that they're eating. It can also, block out the sunlight, which the seagrasses need to grow. So if you have, no seagrasses and the manatees don't find anything to feed, either way, they're gonna die from malnutrition, or they may start eating things that they will find which they cannot digest. So we had a lot of manatees that were eating some sort of type of algae after a big seagrass die off, and then we had a large mortality event in that area because manatees were suddenly eating things that they couldn't digest. So that's definitely a big problem. Any sort of pollution in the water, whether it be from oil or anything else, it does affect water quality and can potentially cause algae blooms, which can also, again, block the seagrasses or in certain cases, be harmful for manatees if they're eating things that are covered with certain, toxins.
Okay, got it. Thank you for the question. That was a good question.
Yeah.
We have only a few more questions left here.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I'm going to keep it at the ones that are already on the dock. So Rumi asked, I guess this is kind of a narrow question, but asked if there are manatees in Guinea Springs, because he always heard they should be careful and not use heavy boats, but because there might be manatees, but he's never seen one. Where is Guinea Springs?
So Guinea Springs is up by Gainesville. It's a little further north than Gainesville. I have never seen in there. There could be some in the rivers around there. We do have manatees at Silver Spring, Blue Spring, Manatee Spring, Fanning Springs. Those are all springs that are in the northern Florida area. We have some in Ichituckney Springs, Gilchrist Blue Springs. I don't think that Guinea Springs has any manatees. I've personally scuba dived there and snorkeled there. I don't think there's manatees in that area, but I would have to look up, what river it's connected to. I think there's definitely manatees in the Swanee River and like Santa Fe River, like rivers in northern Florida for sure.
Okay. So you scuba dive and you snorkel?
Yes, yeah, cool. I do. That's like one of my big things that I do when I'm not working.
That's awesome. The Amazing Pie Man asked if you have any favorite experiences working with manatees or swimming with manatees or anything that you can share.
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's a lot. I mean, the one time it was great. I was at the park the night before a manatee came in and she was really pregnant. She was about, to give birth at any point. And then I was the first person the next morning who was there and saw the tiny little calf.
Oh, so
that was
cool.
definitely like one of my, favorite experiences. A lot of experience, like when you rescue an animal and then you are there when it's released after rehabilitation. For example, last year we rescued one was really severely cold stressed at the end of January, and then we released it in June, and I just found out that it's doing really well and it's down in Miami right now. It migrated down to Miami for some reason.
That's so
but
cool.
that's definitely, those are really the success stories. Or like anytime I do a presentation or any sort of educational activity, and I have people come up to me and say, wow, I learned something new today, like this is great. Or hey, I was always feeding manatees, I was always touching them, and now I know it's not good for them, so I won't do that anymore. That's really rewarding to hear that you can make an impact by talking to people and telling them about manatees.
Yeah, I think you guys have learned a lot today. Also, so hopefully you're happy about that. Did you guys learn something? I definitely learned things about them. Even if you're not in Florida, I mean, you've learned a lot about or where they are. You guys have learned a lot about their conservation and what you guys are doing. You guys are doing such cool stuff to help and protect them. That's incredible. We're at $2,132.92 in donations. So thank you so much.
Crazy.
Willie, I hope you're still here. A while ago, he asked, where can they watch your documentary? Would you mind if I showed the trailer for it? Because we have the trailer.
Yeah.
Here. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's on YouTube. So if you watch the trailer, I believe it's on my YouTube channel. I don't have a whole lot of channel, but there's the documentaries there as well. So yeah, okay. Absolutely.
Yeah, let's watch it right now. Jeff tipped $17.08 to even it out, so now it's $2,150. Jeff, thank you so much for doing that. Okay, I'll pull up this documentary, and I'll let you know when it's over.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Yes, sounds great.
Manatees have roamed our planet for over 15 million years.
Manatee is a great big herbivore, just this huge eating machine.
We have about 5,000 manatees today, but their habitat and their very existence is still threatened. Whether or not the threats they face every day and in these large ways are controlled, they're not controlled.
Before I started working here, I did most of the things that you're not supposed to do, and it was just ignorance. I didn't know, and that's a lot of the problem. People don't know.
Standstill with $50.
All over Florida, sick and injured manatees are rescued, rehabilitated, and in many cases, successfully released back into the wild.
They have that will and urge and want to fight for their life, and so we want to help them.
All right. That's awesome. We just had another $50 from Standstill again.
Wow.
Connor with $5, Amber with $5, and Vincent for $6. Thank you for the kind messages too. You guys appreciate that. That's awesome. And Zoyo with $5. So $2,220 in donations. Thank you so much.
Wow.
That's
awesome. That's amazing.
Here's the full documentary link. So the whole thing is on YouTube.
Yes, yeah, I put the full thing on YouTube. So I made this a couple of years ago, and it was, it was like my first thing to got me started. And then it aired at a couple of like film festivals, and parts of it aired at like local TV stations around here. But it was sort of just an independent project. I just really wanted to sort of get the word out there. So then I decided to put it on YouTube so that whoever wants to watch it, has access to it too. So
yeah, that's awesome. Okay, well, guys,
so, yeah.
Saito just linked that. If you're interested in that. So thank you so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about before we close up here?
I don't know. I mean, if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I think I have a lot. I don't want to bore people either.
No, we've gone over a lot. Thank you so much.
Yeah, but some really good questions. So I'm always happy when people ask questions, because there's never a dumb question except for the one that's not asked. And a lot of people, come to Florida. Even if you don't live in Florida, you may come to vacation or whatever, or you may know somebody who comes here. So, you may be able to teach them something you learned about the manatees today.
Yeah. Guys, there you go. That's awesome. Really, really great questions today, you guys. Thank you so much for asking them. The system with Saito is working really great for me. Hopefully you guys as well. I'm getting to more questions than I was before, so I think that's good. To those of you who donated, Standstill in particular, thank you so much for your donations today, and everybody else, $2,220.99.
That's amazing.
Absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, you guys. That donation goal just kept increasing. So incredible. And Cora, thank you so much for your time today and for answering. I know it's a lot of talking, but I appreciate it.
That's fine. Great. I mean, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. That was awesome.
Of course. And Rowdy's finishing everything with $19.01 to even it out. It's $2,240. Brilliant.
Wow. That's amazing.
Thank
you guys.
Thank you again for coming on. Thank you for sending all those images too. They love being able to see pictures and videos. Makes it go a lot smoother. So thank you for that, and thank you for everything you do with the manatees. That was awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll be in touch then. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Leaked. Connor said, and then some more, bruv, with $3. Please call me before you end stream. Tara, call you on stream? Tavian with $7. Thank you so much. Twitch is an untapped reservoir for doing good. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? $2,250.01. You guys are insane. What a podcast. Standstill, where are you? Standstill. With $1,050? Brother, where, like, what the heck? You're incredible. Thank you so much. Big hearts in chat for Standstill. Pogs in chat for Standstill. And everybody else, you guys, this is insane. Thank you for all the donations you made. And again, I'll say it here and I'll say it every podcast. Hang on, I can't multitask. I'll say it here and I'll say it every podcast. Even if you don't have the means to donate or you don't donate, that is completely okay. You guys being here and watching and learning about it is so incredibly important, and I really, really appreciate you being here for that. It is really important. That is classic number 2. Man in Black with $9.99 to even it out again. You baited him, Tavian. True. It was pretty fun, Tavian. Congratulations. $2,260. You guys like manatees, huh? What'd you guys think? What'd you think of the podcast? Pretty good? Really good guest? She was awesome. I learned a lot. How important is it to you guys to have media? To have, like, pictures and stuff to show like that? It's good. A lot. Very. It helps. It helps a lot. I don't care. Very. It helps. Okay. I will try to be better about that. I'm getting better at it. Did you guys notice that? I feel like I did a pretty good job. I had it very organized today. I feel like oh man. LX. I was pretty happy with that, and I think that having pictures is really helpful because you guys really fall for the animals that we're talking about. Still muted at the beginning. True. Someday. Speaking of less scuffed, this is the last time that you guys are going to see the podcast like it was today. If everything goes to plan, this was the last day that you guys will see the podcast. Connor with $9.99. Thank you. The last day that you'll see this the podcast. Nice. Thank you. Like that. Rebrand next week. Rebrand next week. Apparently I have to call Tara. Oh, never mind. The production quality is about to skyrocket. Hearts in chat for Tara. Loch Ness. Big thanks to Loch Ness. He's doing insane graphics. Danny for thank you for that. Danny, YouTube editor, fantastic member of the community. Saito, insane. You guys already know the research that Saito does, like the effort that he puts into the podcast, the question doc. I mean, you know, last podcast I did it at 11 a.m. like on the East Coast. Berlin, thank you for the 8 months. And Saito was up at like 2 in the morning and didn't even tell me that he was staying up for the podcast. 3 a.m. I don't like, didn't even tell me. Like, he's insane. Insane. He does so much work. Potato is gonna help with some other stuff, so hard to chat for Potato. And then William for the amazing graphics every week. The production, they're so good. Thank you so much for doing that. Okay. Standstill, thank you for your donations today. Everybody else, thank you so much. I'm glad that you enjoyed the podcast. I learned so much. This was wonderful, and it makes me so happy. I'm so happy. Thank you. So let's do more good today on American Eagle Foundation stream, okay? Sorry that it's uneven. Thank you for Thank you for $2,317.69. I appreciate you guys more than you know. Thank you so much. Okay.